With early voting underway in Queensland for the local government elections, Q Shelter, the state's top housing and homelessness organisation, addressed letters to mayoral and councillor candidates across all 77 of Queensland's local government areas. Well, joining me live is Fiona Caniglia, the Executive Director of Q Shelter. Fiona, thank you so much for joining us and good afternoon. Housing is one of the main issues for voters, and there is certainly no denying all governments are suggesting that it is a housing crisis, not only in Queensland and across the whole country. What is the role of local governments?
So local governments play a really critical role. Every level of government has a role to play, and it's important that we have the opportunity to engage with local government about the best things they can do. Obviously, we're seeing governments, including state governments, set targets for housing supply, and that is really important because we need to project forward in terms of what the community needs in terms of housing. And we're somewhat in the position that we're in at the moment in the crisis that we have because we haven't done that long-term planning. So when targets are set for housing to meet population demand, they have to be interpreted in planning schemes, which local governments have a primary responsibility for. So those local planning schemes, they set housing, a housing framework, if you like, through zoning. They establish the other uses that communities need, like commercial space, retail space, community infrastructure, a whole range of other ways in which planning schemes play a critical role in making communities places that are great to live in. And interpreting those housing targets that are being set in those planning schemes is absolutely critical to success.
And Q Shelter have proposed the consolidation and expansion of roles that's titled Public Space Liaison Officers, or PSLO, across the local government sector. Tell us more about that.
Look, in some of the councils where there's larger populations, these roles have played a really valuable part in engaging with people in the community, in parks, on streets. And of course, in that process, they meet homeless people and they have become very well connected to local community services to assist people who perhaps need assistance by connecting them up with opportunities to be supported and to be helped. So those public space liaison officers are a jewel in the crown, really. They help councils interface with members of the public, including homeless people.
And Fiona, did Q Shelter welcome any of the ideas from recent policies put forward by any of the governments?
Look, we are really thrilled that at the national level and at the state level there are significant opportunities for investment in social and affordable housing. And those funds, both at the national and the state level, are working together through community housing providers, which are not-for-profit providers. They build homes and they also deliver those homes through tenancy and property management, and they deliver those homes to people on lower and middle incomes. So when there is funding available, it obviously creates opportunities for growth in that supply of social and affordable housing. And of course, we're pleased to see that. And the other thing that, the state government in Queensland are doing, they've handed down Homes for Queensland. It is probably the most comprehensive plan for housing over the next 20 years. It has depth, it has breadth, it's got excellent planning system measures. It also is helping with infrastructure costs to bring infill development into high amenity areas where there's transport and other great connectivity with services. This plan is really important, and it's also put resources into the immediate problem of helping people who are currently homeless or imminently at risk of homelessness through extra service delivery.
And tell us what Q Shelter is asking for from governments.
So obviously we need investment. The long-term planning piece is so important, where we project forward what our population is going to be, and we figure out how to make sure there's enough housing supply in the system, both through land availability, the appropriateness of that land, its siting, and not just pushing out all the time beyond the boundaries of the urban footprint into greenfield sites, because what we know is that the cost of servicing those sites can be more, and people without a lot of money to spend on their housing are pushed further out, and that can mean that their transport costs are higher and that they're further away from the services that they need. And whatever they pick up or think they have in terms of that immediate and better entry cost to homes, they can be experiencing longer term ongoing costs, which reduces the affordability of their life, their lifestyle. So it's really important that we get that population projection piece right, and that all levels of government are doing really robust planning to make sure that we have enough homes in the pipeline over the next 20 years to meet population demand. We also think there's a current challenge. It's hard to build homes quickly. It takes time. which is why we've also been calling for a systematic way of finding any latent capacity in the system, whether that's through incentivising short-term rentals back into the long-term rental market, whether it's finding properties that are either already housing but could be better utilised, or buildings that could be adapted so that we've got a quicker, immediate option for people who need solutions now. And we are really being champions of modern methods of construction to speed up the construction process, to reduce the cost of construction, to increase the workforce because of these new methods of construction attracting a broader workforce as well. It's very important that we embrace technology, build homes faster and more cheaply.
And with Q Shelter being the state's top housing and homelessness organisation, staying on that big picture topic and the future, what it's going to look like, what are you hearing from people in regards to, say, their mental health as well as the financial stresses that they're undergoing?
Look, I don't think we've been in a time like this where the housing challenge is being felt quite universally. People with homes perhaps worried about how their children will afford home ownership in the future, or perhaps their children are struggling to enter the rental market. So by the time anxiety like that becomes more universal, it does create opportunities because people are worried about the problem and they're seeking, a much broader base of support to do something about it. So, if you are a family and you're wondering where your next house is going to be, the real challenge for us at the moment is that people are tipping out of home ownership. They're perhaps facing long-term lifetime of renting in the private rental market. We know that security of tenure isn't perfect in that form of tenure, and it's a real challenge. If you only really have 6 months of security, how can you possibly think ahead? Will your children be able to go to the school that they love? Will you be able to stay close to neighbours where you are in a reciprocal relationship of support and friendship? I think all of these things are eroding the stability of our communities across the board.
Very important points there. Executive Director of Q Shelter, Fiona Caniglia, thank you so much. Always great to see you.